My name is Sancia Gonzalez, and I will be your tutor for Audit and Assurance, AA. So, before we start with the subject, let's get into the introduction of AA. So, everyone, welcome to Audit and Assurance. Now, the first things first, what is exactly Audit and Assurance? What is AA all about? We have audit framework and regulation, that is the A part of the syllabus. Then, coming to the B part of the syllabus, we have planning and risk assessment. Coming to C part of the syllabus, we have internal controls. So, we're going to talk about the internal controls of the company. Then we have D part of the syllabus, which is audit evidence. So, we're going to talk about complete evidence that is gathered during conducting the audit. And the E part of the syllabus is review and reporting. So, first of all, this all is related. When you are conducting an audit as an auditor, first one is you have to make your own framework and regulation before you audit. A framework should be ready. Then you have to do planning out what procedures you have to perform, how you have to do it, gather internal controls and evidence. And after internal controls and evidence are gathered, you have to review and report on the financial statement. And this entire audit and assurance requires employability and technology skills. What it requires? Employability and technology skills. So, did you see how it is related? First, you make a framework, right? Then you plan the audit before performing it. Then, during the procedure of the audit, you do internal controls and gather audit evidence. And after all the evidence is gathered, you finally review and report on the financial statements. And for all these purposes, you require employability and technology skills. So, that is my audit. Then, let's talk about the exam, the AA exam. First of all, it is a 3-hour computer based exam. So, you guys need to understand this exam is not a handwritten exam, it's a computer based exam. Okay, so it's done on the CBE platform that is provided by the ACCA. Then, first of all, it's a 3-hour computer based exam. Then, it is 10 minutes to read exam instructions. So you have total 10 minutes to read all the instructions that you have in the exam. Then your paper is divided into 2 sections. We have section A and we have section B. So what is there in section A? In section A, we have 3 10-mark case-based questions. So basically, your section A is total 30 marks and your section B is total 70 marks. So in this section A, you have 3 questions of 10 marks each. And these are MCQ style questions, which are case-based questions. Each case has 5 objective test questions worth 2 marks each. Okay. So one question will be 5 questions of 2 marks each. Next will be 5 questions of 2 marks each. Next will be 5 questions of 2 marks each. Total number of questions, 15. Total marks, 30. Coming to my section B, my section B will have 1 question of 30 marks and 2 questions of 20 marks each. So that makes it to 70 marks. 70 marks is divided into 3 categories, 1 question of 30 marks and 2 questions of 20 marks each. Now, this section B of the exam it's not an MCQ based question. It's a literal question where you have to write a lot of content. Whereas section A is an MCQ based question, right? So we just have to tick the correct option. But here in section B, it is a complete theory question, but there's a good news. This section B is completely predictable. Okay, so section B of the exam will predominantly examine one or more aspects of audit and assurance. So, one question can be from audit and assurance, from the planning and risk assessment section, right? One will be from internal control or audit evidence. Although topics from other syllabus areas may be included, but over the years, we kind of have seen a pattern in section B. And what is that pattern and how to tackle that pattern? We are going to see as in how we proceed with the syllabus and when we are doing the revision. Remember one thing, very important, all the questions of your AA exam are compulsory. It's not like, I can attempt any 5 or I can attempt any 10. No. All the questions are compulsory. And when you're doing the questions, say in MCQs, or maybe in the section B, sometimes some calculations may be required. Now, what are these calculations? Maybe you have to calculate materiality. Possible. So these calculations are required. Okay. Now let's see how to study the study resources, like how to go about with your AA. Very important is, first of all, you have decided that this attempt I'm going to attempt AA, right? So first things first, you have to plan how to do it. Firstly, study chapters, chapter quizzes, and chapter questions. So what will you do exactly? You will watch recordings chapter wise, and once you complete one recording, you will read it yourself. So gain knowledge, and then you will solve the quizzes and questions on that chapter. So you will gain knowledge by watching the recordings, by reading it once, and then start to apply it in the chapter quizzes and chapter questions. Once the entire syllabus is done like that, all the chapters are done, then practice applying your knowledge to the revision questions. And revision questions are real exam style questions. So now you have obtained knowledge of all the chapters. You've already applied it in the chapter quizzes and exam questions. Now practice and apply knowledge to the revision questions. Revision questions are past exam questions. Okay. Then we have very important, which a lot of students are very lazy to do, is the mock exams. Do real mock exams in real time. In real time means set your timer to 3 hours, pick a mock from the ACCA study hub and solve the mock. Okay? And if you do all these things as requested, definitely you will pass. But make sure you're doing all of this consistently. Consistency is a key in all your ACCA papers. Now, allocation of course time. As a guide, we suggest spending 50% of total classroom time working through studying the chapters. As I told you, watch the recordings, study it yourself, including the study questions associated with each chapter. That is your step number 1. You watch the recordings, you read the chapter, and you solve chapter-wise questions. That is your first phase. That is your first phase, which is revision phase. Once your revision phase is done, once all the chapters are over, sorry, not revision phase, it's your study phase. Okay. Once all that is done, it's solved, etc., comes your second phase. Your second phase is the revision phase. By the time you reach the revision phase, all of your chapter recording, watching is done, reading of each chapter is done, and chapter-wise question solving is done. So your study phase is completed. Next is your revision phase. In revision phase, you have to spend 30% of your total classroom time working through the debriefing of revision questions. Now, these revision questions are past exam style questions that were appeared in the previous exams. Okay. And the next is your final phase, that is your exam preparation phase, which will consist of 20% of your total classroom time where you will focus on mocks. You will pick any mock. We have a lot of mocks on the ACCA practice platform. We will pick the mocks and we will do it. Okay. So the allocation of a course time is divided into these three phases. And in class also during this recording, we're going to follow that. 50% of our classroom time will be the study phase, 30% will be the revision phase, and 20% will be the mock exam phase. Okay. This is your study support resources provided to us by ACCA. See, ACCA is trying their best to provide us with all the available resources. They're giving us the examiner's approach where we exactly understand what the examiner expects from us in the exam, what kind of answers the examiner expects. Then we have guide on the CBE sessions, which is a computer-based exam session, how to attempt the CBE one. Then we have how to use the practice platform. We have essentials of AA and we have essentials of AA again. So basically, ACCA from their side is doing their best to give us, 100% resources. But what can we do from our side? From our side, what we can do is use these resources to our full advantage. That means make 100% use of these resources and pass the exam because resources are provided to us. We need to pass the exam. Then proceeding forward. Now, essentials of AA. Please don't get scared by looking at this big page. It's just what is required and an overview of your AA. First of all, audit and assurance provides you with the knowledge and understanding of the process of carrying out the assurance engagement and its application in the context of professional regulatory framework. This exam is very practical in application as well as aiming to ensure that candidates who pass this exam understand the basic of an audit. Consequently, the exam aims to strike a balance between technical knowledge as well as the practical application of this knowledge. So basically, in this exam, audit and assurance, it's a mixture of practical application as well as technical knowledge. So, what exactly is it? Overview of AA tells you accept an audit engagement first. After you accept an audit engagement, you have to understand its environment of the client whose engagement you have accepted, assess the risk of material misstatement, okay, then effective controls expected. If yes, then test the controls and conduct substantive procedures, give final review, and give an auditor's report. If effective controls is not expected, that means we don't have good controls, then communicate the deficiencies to management and those charged with governance. Conduct full substantive procedures because the controls are not strong. So we cannot reduce substantive procedures, but we have to do a complete checking and then same final review and auditor's report. Now you must be wondering what is ma'am speaking about. This chart you will understand better as and how we proceed with the syllabus. It's like when I'm conducting the audit, if I have good controls, I need not perform a lot of procedures in the audit because my controls are strong. Okay, so I can reduce substantive procedures. But where my controls are weak, that means there is a deficiency. So I have to communicate this deficiency to those charged with governance and management. And I cannot take a risk because the controls are weak. There's a deficiency. So I have to perform full procedures and then give a final review and auditor's report. Okay, how to approach your studies. This is just read only. We strongly recommend that you study with an approved learning partner. Book your exams as early as possible to begin receiving tailored ACC communication and support as much as possible. If you've already decided that you're going to go ahead with a particular attempt, please book your exams as soon as possible. It's my personal advice that, when you book the exam and when you have already paid the money, it's a human tendency that we will start studying. Unless and until you have paid the money, you will be very relaxed that, oh, I have not yet paid the money, so I'm just watching the recordings for time pass. But once you pay your money and that money gets debited from your pocket, you feel that no, now I need to study because I've paid so much and I need to pass. So, my personal opinion is to book your exams as early as possible, because that is how you will actually get into studying your subject, whichever it is. Assess the ACCA practice platform. The specimen exam will give you a clear picture of how the exam looks like, how it is structured, how it is assessed, as well as the likely style and range of questions that you could see in the real exam. Now, this is one small advice from the examining team. The accounting standards examined in financial accounting form the basis of questions and how to apply audit procedures in respect of those standards. So, whatever standards you've studied in your FR, those standards will be examined here as well. Application questions will feature heavily in the exam as they demonstrate whether you have understood a topic. So, how your knowledge is applied, that is what is mainly tested here. Candidates should practice the skills required for application questions by working through specimen and practice questions to time and reviewing the solution as to identify areas for improvement. And then after you have solved a lot of mocks, when you have solved a lot of practice questions, and when you read the standard answer, you exactly know in what area you're lacking and where you require like a sort of extra knowledge of that area and where you require improvement. And the ACC study hub is the best place to go through the past exam questions, the mocks. Then you can even self check your mock, right? So this is all is done on the ACCA study hub. Now, about the exam, we've already studied. It has two sections. Section A is 30 marks, section B is 70 marks. Okay. Then, most frequently used verbs in AA exam. In your requirements, mostly they will ask you explain, describe, and recommend. You need to know the difference between the two, three. In explain, make an idea clear, show logically how a concept is developed, and give the reason for the event. In describe, give a detailed account of key features, list characteristics, qualities, and parts. And in recommend, you give your own advice because they've asked you to recommend. But when they've said explain, you don't give your own advice because they have not asked you recommend. So basically, the ACC wants to tell you please stick to what the verb is used in the exam. If they've asked explain, you only explain. If they've said describe, you only describe. If they've said recommend, you please give your advice. Other than that, in explain, don't give your advice. In describe, don't explain. So that is what the ACCA wants you to understand, and most of the students don't understand this. So that verb that is used in the exam is very important. So they have given you a distinction of what each verb means. And that's with my introduction. I hope you guys understood the introduction and then proceeding forward with our chapters. Thank you so much.